Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And welcome to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Check out the network if you are interested in the other sports and other shows that we do. We do a sports show in general. We do baseball, football, fantasy football, basketball. Am I missing anything?
Cricket? No, I'm kidding.
We do not do cricket yet, but hey, you never know. Things could change in 2019. Who knows?
I don't think we'll ever do cricket.
So again, I'm your host, Mark Souza, and with me, as always, is Jeff Malinoff. How's it going?
Hi, everybody. I am doing fantastic. It's Wednesday. It's almost the weekend. We're at the hump day, which is everyone knows that's the camel's favorite day. Do you remember the commercial Hump Day where it was like a Progressive commercial?
Mm-hmm.
It's like saving the Geico 15% or more on car insurance. Does Camel love Wednesday?
I do remember that. So in today's show, we'll be talking about a few different things in the world of soccer. Champions League, of course. We have the last match day. Today we have the last part of the games. Yesterday was the first half of the last match day, which was match day 6. We'll talk about who's in, who's out, who's on the bubble, and which teams are heading to the Europa League. As we know, in the Champions League, the top 2 qualify from each group, but every third-place team drops into the Europa League, so their shot at winning a trophy in Europe is not over. It's only over if you finish in 4th. So we'll talk about the teams that are going to Europa League. We'll also talk about the English Premier League in full detail. We had a lot of action. A big team that lost the game, surprisingly. We'll talk about a top performer who had maybe his best game of the season. We'll talk about some upcoming matchups too. Liverpool-Manchester United is the game of this coming weekend. We have some news as it relates to the United States, U.S. soccer, U.S. men's national team. We'll do that in the last segment. But the first segment, and unfortunately we have to start off on kind of a negative tone, a negative story. Actually 2 stories, but it's something that needs to be talked about. Yeah. We saw 2 incidents of racism in the English Premier League this last week. 2 unfortunate incidents, one involving Raheem Sterling, forward for Manchester City. He was at the center of racial abuse when his team played at Chelsea at the weekend. And another player, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, had an incident. He's an Arsenal player. His incident occurred with Tottenham supporters at the North London derby. But we'll start off with Raheem Sterling. Chelsea fans yelling racist things towards him. That happened in their match. Of course, Chelsea won. They did beat Man City. A shocking result, to say the least, especially considering what had happened in Chelsea's prior game to facing Manchester City. A little bit of a surprise to many people. But what's your first initial reaction to hearing about this?
Well, when it comes to sports, I feel like when you say something racial or anything offensive like that, it has no business involving sports. Sports is a game. I understand people are very loyal to it. I get that. But when you shout out something racial or anti-Semitic or anything that revolves something in a serious light, that's wrong. Like, I know, like, there are some, like, when you talk about, like, black players, they get that racial abuse a lot, and it's very wrong, of course. And then you look at, like, the Jewish players, they get the anti-Semitic remarks at them, too. That happens with everything, really, and it's really a shame, especially in the world of sports where it's a game. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be take your mind off what's going on outside of, like, in the workplace, and enjoy and have fun with other people and watch a game. And that's what it is. It's a game. And when you bring race involved, when you bring hurtful things, when you bring violence into it, there's never a logical explanation for it. It doesn't belong there. It's hurtful, it's hateful, and it's borderline it's just wrong. And that should never be allowed in a game, in a sport, in a audience participation thing. I get when audiences are attacking the enemy team like you suck or something like that. That's one thing. But when you attack someone's race or family, especially you see it on Twitter all the time, the horrible things people say. It's the lowest of lows. It's wrong. And what really bothers me the most is, like, Twitter is where it gets even horrible, because people are behind a screen saying it. They don't. And then when someone says it to your face,
it's kind of the same, too, doing it in a crowd of people.
Yeah.
Like the fans that we're talking about today that are at the center of this racial abuse, the fans that we're talking about, like,
they don't have an identity.
But they're literally in thousands of people. So, like, the chances of them getting caught, which one absolutely got caught. We'll talk about him later. But it makes you feel like you can say or do anything, right? Because you're not gonna. There's no accountability there. Like it's the same thing what you're talking about. You know, it's a Twitter fingers, right? That's what people call it. It's you're behind a computer. You can say whatever you want. It's online video games. It's everything. It's these people that get upset. They're frustrated, and they just resort to the lowest common denominator of insults, and that's literally racist or religion. You know, it's one of those two things, right?
It's absolutely wrong, though, in all circumstances. There's no excuse for it.
It's religion, it's sexuality. Those are the top three things that people run to like, you know what? I don't have a creative way of insulting you right now, so I'm going to talk about literally the lowest hanging fruit of something that I can say.
Yeah, and that has honestly, like race, religion, sexuality, sometimes has nothing to do with the actual person themselves, but they use it as a way to insult them, which is completely wrong and cowardly, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's a disgrace. And, you know, we see it all too often. I will say, as somebody who I follow soccer incredibly deep, multiple leagues around the world. I have a pulse of what's going on across the world, and it happens too often in Europe. It happens way too often in Eastern Europe. I don't want to point out a single area, but we see it even in the Western European countries. This happened in England. We've seen it in Italy time and time again. And a lot of times when you watch soccer games, if you ever see highlights and there's no one in the stands, it's because that team has been reprimanded by the league, because they'll have to play games behind closed doors where they don't have any fans. It's the weirdest thing ever. You watch a soccer game between two big clubs and there's no one there. All you can hear is the players. It's like they're playing a training match. And it's because the teams have been forced to or the home team has been forced to play a match where they cannot collect funds because they haven't been able to stop their fans from abuse, whether that is racial, whether that is throwing things on the field, whatever it may be, right? So it's unfortunate. However, it wasn't the only incident with Raheem Sterling that brought attention to this subject, as we saw in the North London derby between Arsenal and Tottenham, two fierce rivals. Both clubs see each other as their biggest rival. It's the North London derby. It's always a big game. Tottenham was thoroughly dismantled by Arsenal, 4-2 in this game. But the sad part about this isn't how great the game was or how much fun it was, because it was an incredible game to watch. It was a pulsating 90 minutes of soccer.
Any game that goes 4-2, there's a lot of excitement involved.
Yes, and both teams carried a lead in this game. It was an exciting game. We saw Arsenal's been on the bad end of this matchup the last few years. We saw them kind of get some revenge, and it was just a masterclass performance by this team. But the sad thing about this is star forward Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He scores a goal, and what happens? A banana peel gets thrown on the field. Of course, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is a black player, as is Raheem Sterling. A banana peel thrown on the field. This is not the first time that this has happened either. Banana peels, that seems to be the thing to do when it comes to this racial abuse. We've seen it time and time again with black players, especially in Europe. It's just, again, we just talked about the lowest of lows, and we have this man, the Spurs supporter. Let me try and find his name.
But when you think about banana peel, like a lot of people think, oh, that's Mario Kart, funny. But this is like you're throwing
No,
out.
it's-
I
yeah.
know that's what I'm trying to think. Like other people might think that, but this was totally not that case. This was absolutely a racial. This is basically saying a racial slur at the
His
guy.
name is Avarov Pantelli. He was caught on camera hurling a banana peel towards Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and he has been charged with. He's been charged by police. I don't know exactly what the crime is.
Probably
in
a
the UK.
hate crime of some kind.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they call it, but he's also has a lifetime ban from the
Good.
stadium too. And this man has rejected any suggestion that his actions were racially motivated.
Why did he throw?
He said, "I'm not racist whatsoever. I am actually a Greek. I am 100%.
That makes no. That doesn't explain. That doesn't explain the
I am
actions.
100% not a racist. I swear on my kids' lives that I'm not that kind of guy. I apologize if I have offended anyone from both clubs, especially Tottenham. It was a mad thing I did, and I never meant to offend anyone in any way. I never meant anything by it. I've been charged with throwing an object. I'm not charged with anything racist. The police were happy to accept it was not racist. I have made a big mistake, and I am sincerely sorry for it."
So he's saying that the banana peel was just a coincidence. It was against a black player.
He said that he picked it up off the floor, that without thinking he picked up a banana skin and threw it on the edge of the pitch. I didn't throw it at the players. It was just on the edge of the pitch.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
You don't throw objects just to throw objects. You throw it at the players, like that. Well, not at the player, but like how you think of them as trash or something like that. But and a banana peel, of course, is like monkey and
he said, of course, that he has black people in his family and all that. So
yeah, you could say one of my friends is black. I don't see him often, but he's still black. I don't know.
And oftentimes Tottenham is at the hands of, I guess, hateful comments because they are the Jewish club in England. They are the Jewish club in London. So a lot of times they're on the bad end of this. So it just needs to stop, man. Like it's so like it's 2018, and it's like, what are we doing? We're still living in the Stone Ages. It feels like sometimes. But you know what? I thought what Raheem Sterling said was important. And basically what happened with Raheem Sterling, of course, is, yes, he was the subject for the racism at Chelsea. He smiled, he laughed it off, and then the next day he publicly made a statement on, I believe it was Instagram, but he basically called out the Daily Mail, which is a publication in England, and he said, you know what, this racism stuff has a lot to do with how things are reported. And he pointed out how two players were represented by the media very differently by one publication, again, the Daily Mail. Two young players received big contracts for the club. Both of them bought big houses for their families, and the black player was portrayed as being somebody who spent his money frivolously, and the white player was seen as somebody who did a great thing by buying his mother a home. And both players did the same thing. Both players did the same thing, and the difference between the two stories was absolutely couldn't be more different, right? Like, and he called them out, and I thought that was important. I thought that he made a good point. He posted both cover pages of the stories, and he's like, man, I know both of these kids, and you portrayed them differently, and it seems to be because of the color of their skin.
And it's wrong to really think that. You get a really bad taste in your mouth when you see stuff like this, because the feeling of the fact of the matter is, people just have this. This is bigotry. That's just what it is. You can't really explain it other than that. It's very a sad thing to think about in our day and age, where some people are just immediately stereotyping people for the actions they do and not really look into what the actions are about. Mm-hmm. And it's just a real shame, and it puts a sour taste in my mouth too, because I've also experienced anti-Semitic things myself, and people just honestly look at the title of who you are and not what you're about.
There are so many fun ways to criticize people. We don't need to stoop to the lowest form of come on, we can be better than this. But hey, we'll move on. We're going to talk about better subjects, at least more positive subjects. This was definitely something we needed to talk about, though, as it was two incidents that happened back to back. And you know what? The last thing I'll say on this is that this didn't happen in an Eastern European country. This didn't happen in Russia or somewhere like that. This happened not only in England. This happened in London. One of the most diverse cities in the world. Yeah. One of the, and it's like, if this can happen in London, this can happen in New York City, this can happen in San Francisco, this can happen in anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's disturbing.
And it does. That's the disturbing part.
Absolutely. So, anyways, moving on. I need to do some Christmas shopping, and I am dreading going to the mall, going to these stores.
Doesn't?
Yeah, right. Like going to these stores. I hate driving in in the traffic around the malls, finding parking. But one thing I like to do that calms me down while I look for that parking spot, when I look for that spot to park where that's within 2 miles of where I'm going, I like to listen to audiobooks. And where I like to do is Audible. There's no better place to listen than Audible. Get your first audiobook free, along with 2 selected Audible original titles and exclusive fitness programs when you start a 30-day trial. So take the time to listen. Just visit audible.com/GSMC book or text GSMC book to 500-500. Simple enough. Right now, for a limited time, you can get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's more than half off the regular price. Go to audible.com/GSMC book or text GSMC book to 500-500. We'll be right back.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by
And we're back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. Thank you for sticking around. This is the second segment. We're going to get into actual soccer news, on the pitch stuff that happened in the last 24 hours. In this segment, we'll talk about the Champions League. Now, today, we are in the middle. When we do this podcast, it's on a Wednesday morning. So to kind of give you insight to what we're dealing with, the Tuesday games are done. The Wednesday games have not started. So we're right in the middle here. So when you hear this, the Wednesday games might be completed, but we'll set the scenarios for you, give you what you need to know. First off, we'll talk about the beginning of Match Day 6, which was yesterday. We saw some intriguing matchups. Some groups had already been decided going in. Dortmund and Atletico, we already knew they would advance. But Dortmund actually takes the top spot after they win yesterday. So they will move on. In Group A, Club Brugge, they'll go to the Europa League because they finished third. Monaco, thank you for playing and participating, but your negative 12 goal differential will not be getting it done, and you will not be participating in this tournament any longer. So,
get out.
Yes. Group B, though. Group B is where we had some fun. Do you have the scores for Group B?
Well, my friend, both games ended with the same exact score. Both games tied at 1-1 apiece. Barcelona and Tottenham both tied at 1. And the last goal actually was on the 85th minute by Tottenham. So it was Barcelona in their favor going into that final.
Lucas Moura scored that goal. So heading into yesterday, Tottenham needed a win.
Desperately.
Because they were tied with Inter in points. And we were all assuming that Inter would beat PSV. Barcelona scores on Tottenham early in that game, and Barcelona was not playing.
The 7th minute.
Barcelona was not playing their best team. Messi came off the bench. They had a lot of players playing for the first time.
And they had 13 points going into that, so they were already...
Yeah, they had nothing to play for. So Tottenham and Inter were the two teams in question who could qualify. Inter played PSV, and again, Tottenham goes behind early to Barcelona. They get a goal in the 85th minute to tie it up, but the main thing is here, Inter choked. All Inter had to do was win. If Inter wins, Tottenham is out. But since they drew to a PSV team...
PSV scored very early in the 13th minute, so it was they were already playing behind as the game started.
Yes, young Mexican starlet Herving Chucky Lozano scored that goal. He's been on fire for PSV, and ultimately that goal helps Tottenham get through.
Yeah, and Tottenham is thanking PSV a lot. They're probably on their knees thinking, thank you. And then Tottenham moves on. They are tied with points with Inter at the moment. They both have identical record at 2-2-2, and they both have a -1 goal differential. So this team is even as you can possibly get.
Yesterday, we also saw Group C was another group that had some drama. Again, there was basically two groups that had drama yesterday, but PSG, they went into the game yesterday. With a win, they would secure their spot. But Liverpool and Napoli was the main storyline as the winner would move on. However, Liverpool needed to win this game either 1-0 or they needed to win by 2 goals if Napoli scored. So they were in a precarious position. They were at home. PSG played Red Star, so everybody kind of knew that PSG would have their way with them. And you have the scores for those games?
Yes, PSG first will do that because they destroyed Red Star 4-1. And they scored in the 9th minute. As soon as that first score happened and then Neymar scored in the 40th minute, everyone knew it was over. So that kind of game went out of hand early. And then they just scored 2 unnecessary goals. Actually, 1 unnecessary goal in the 93rd minute. That was just like adding fuel to the fire unnecessarily.
Liverpool and Napoli was the game, though. That was
Yes.
the game on everybody's mind. Liverpool gets the win, but man, was it nervy late. Napoli has a point-blank shot about 6 or 7 yards out, and the goalkeeper, Alisson, for Liverpool, just saves the day. The save of the season. It would have been a massive, massive failure if Liverpool would have been knocked out. But Napoli is a good team. We have to be honest. Like, Liverpool was the favorite to win that game, but Napoli is no pushover.
But you got to look at the comparisons in shots on goal, or just shots in general. 21 shots for Liverpool, 4 were on goal, and 8 shots for Napoli, and 3 were on goal. So obviously this was all Liverpool throughout the game. But
it was a good back and forth, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
just
Napoli
on the stat
road.
line is what I meant. Just
Napoli was on the road, and they played very well. They could have easily tied or won this game.
Liverpool had 15 fouls this game, though, which almost that almost cost them a lot in the long run. 15 fouls and 4 yellow cards to Napoli's 1. I mean, and there was 2 yellow cards in the extra time in the 92nd minute and 93rd minute. So there was unnecessary penalties on them that they didn't need, but they got. So that almost cost them the game, or cost them an opportunity at least.
Yeah. And do you have the scores for Group D?
Group D, yes, I do have a score for Group D.
I think Porto played Galatasaray.
Yes, and Porto won that game 3-2. And Schalke beat Moscow 1-0 in their game for Group D.
Yeah, this group was already decided. So Porto, they advance with the number 1 seed. They will move on. They will play a second-place team in the second round. A nice group stage for them as they finish with 5 wins and 1 draw. So no losses, a 9-goal differential. Very nice and tidy for them. Schalke gets second place. Schalke,
well, they were already going to get it. That was already
Yeah, this group is already decided. Schalke is what's nice about Schalke is they have U.S. player Weston McKennie, so he's getting some run in the Champions League, which is nice for the young American player.
And the last goal in that game against Moscow happened at the 91st minute. Unnecessary, heart-stopping goal, I guess you can say. But regardless, they had 11 points with this win and put them they were already way ahead. So it was over before they even began.
So Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D are done. E, F, G, and H will play today. So when we look back, so far it's been pretty straightforward. Dortmund and Atletico, they were the 2 teams predicted to go through. They did. Barcelona, Tottenham, they were predicted to go through. They did. PSG, Liverpool, again, predicted. They did. Porto, Schalke. Group D was a nice, fun, open group. A lot of different opinions on who would go through because it seemed like there was no real standout team. But Porto and Schalke were the class of the group. I think most people predicted those would be the two. But, yeah, it was more 50-50 across the board. As we head into today, though, Group E, it has been decided. Bayern Munich will finish. They're in. Ajax is in. Benfica is out, but Benfica will be going to the Europa League. Group F, there could be some drama there as Lyon has not clinched a spot just yet. But again, Group G, Madrid and Roma, they're through. And then in Group H, Juventus, Man United are in. No one else can qualify. Valencia will go in to Europa League from Group H. Group G, it could be Viktoria Plzen or CSKA Moscow that gets in. And in Group F, I'm not sure if Shakhtar can either advance, go to Europa League, or get eliminated completely today. They have the widest range of
Those
results.
are three completely different things.
And can you tell me who's playing today?
Well, Real Madrid and CSKA Moscow is playing right now, as well as Victoria and Roma. So those two games are happening at the moment. Should we tell how the games are going right now, or should we wait till next week?
That's fine.
Okay. Well, right now in the 46th minute, Moscow is destroying Real Madrid 2-0.
Madrid's not playing anybody. They don't care about this game. They're saving all their players to play real games that matter to them.
Mm-hmm. But it's just not good for your bench not to be playing this well.
I mean, Real Madrid is actually playing a pretty good lineup today, so I take that back. But it is a surprising result, 2-0. But hey, CSKA, they have everything to play for. Mm-hmm. I mean, they really do.
Well, let's see. If Madrid loses and Roma wins, aren't they tied?
Different goal differential. Madrid is.
See.
Madrid has nothing to lose.
I didn't even see their goal differential is 8-4.
It is surprising. I was assuming that Madrid would put in their change squad, and they actually do have most of their starting players in the game. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but it is at home as well.
Maybe not as motivated.
I don't know how much money Moscow paid their refs. I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean. It's interesting. That's awesome. If Moscow. I mean, I know that they can't advance, but they can certainly get through to the Europa League, which would be very nice for them. All right, so the other game going on is Roma and Plzen.
Yes, and that game is tied at the moment at the 47th minute.
So if all results stay the same, then you'll see Moscow go into Europa and Viktoria Plzen gone, and that could definitely happen. So. Anyways, let's move on to the other games that will be happening today.
Okay, well, Group E.
Uh-huh.
We got Ajax and...
Wait, which group? Group E?
Yeah, Group E, yeah.
E. Okay.
We got Ajax and...
Benfica?
Yeah. Oh, no, Benfica and AEK Athens are playing.
Okay, Ajax and Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich are playing, yeah, that's right. And they're playing today at noon Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah, all the games are at the same time this afternoon.
I think people wish they had the TV from Back to the Future 2, where Marty's son is looking at like 17 different channels on one television. It's basically how you would do it now.
So again, that group is all wrapped up. No one can move. Like Ajax, I guess Ajax could jump to the first spot. That could happen. There is some value in getting first over second. In theory, you play a easier team in the second round. As we know, the first place teams, they get randomly drawn against the second-place teams and vice versa. So I guess there is some value there, but at the same time, I wouldn't expect any movement here. So what are the other games coming up?
Well, besides those four, Group E or just Group F? Group F, we got Manchester City and Hoffenheim.
That's an interesting game because Manchester City is already through. They don't really have anything to play for, and they're in the middle of a tough stretch in the English Premier League, so I wonder what kind of squad they'll be putting out today.
They might want to make a statement in this game. I'm not sure, but I mean they're
coming off a loss. We'll get to that later. But Hoffenheim, they could make Europa League with a win and a Shakhtar loss. or draw. If Shakhtar loses or draws and Hoffenheim wins, Hoffenheim will go through.
Well, they have the work come out for him because Shakhtar is playing Lyon, and Lyon hasn't lost a game yet.
And Lyon will be looking to win or draw this game because if they lose, they're out, and they don't want to be out. So they will be playing this. That's the game of the day. Lyon Shakhtar will be the game.
Winner advances, basically, in that one.
Winner advances a draw. Lyon goes on. Hoffenheim will be trying to win and jump Shakhtar too. So that's the only group really in question. And then the last group H.
Yes, Group H. We have
Manchester United
in Valencia, yeah, and we also have Young Boys in Juventus.
Yeah, so again, nothing can change here. Young Boys are out. Valencia is third. They'll go to Europa League. Manchester United and Juventus will advance. So,
well, we kind of saw that coming as soon as we saw the group.
United could get the number one spot, but I don't think that's what's on the forefront of their mind as they
I think they just want to advance regardless, just to get that, so they know they're in.
They're in.
Yeah,
they can't lose. They can't
that's what I meant. Like they know they're in. They're not going to worry too much. They probably will put in their backups and stuff like that.
They could. I mean, there is value in getting that
positioning
number one spot.
Yeah,
but yeah, we'll see what happens. Manchester United, I know that they're struggling in the English Premier League, but you know what? It's funny. They actually qualified relatively easy, where some people thought they'd struggle, especially because Valencia is a tough team, and Valencia didn't give them much of a run this time. But that's what we got for Champions League. The third place teams again that will be entering the Europa League are Bruges, Inter Milan, Napoli, Galatasaray, Benfica, Valencia. And then on the bubble, we have CSKA Moscow and Victoria Plzen, and we have Shakhtar or Hoffenheim. Two of those four teams will also punch their ticket to the Europa League. But anyways, I think we should probably go to a break.
We should go to a break. And you know what? I think a lot of guys are doing their homework. They're reading their books on their opponents and stuff. But, sometimes you can't really read a book, can you? You have to listen. Listening is better than reading sometimes, don't you think?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And I have just the thing for you. Audible is the thing for you. Right now, for a limited time, you can get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's more than half off the regular price. Give yourself the gift of listening. And while you're at it, think about giving the gift of Audible to someone on your list, your hate list, your soccer list, your Christmas list, any list. Go to audible.com/GSMC book or text the code GSMC book to 500-500. Once again, that code is GSMC book, and the number you can text for that is 500-500. And with this, you can get your first audiobook for free, along with 2 selected original Audible titles and an exclusive fitness programs when you start a 30-day trial. So take the time to listen on Audible. Just visit audible.com/GSMC book. Once again, or you can text the code of GSMC book to 500-500. Once again, the code is GSMC book to 500-500.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington.
And welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. We just talked Champions League, and now we're going to move to the English Premier League. Some big games happened this last weekend. Some interesting results. Manchester City. They finally faltered. And do you have the score of that game?
I do. It was this weekend, was it not?
It absolutely was.
It was. Yes, of course, I had to be. And that game was a surprising score of Chelsea winning this game 2-0.
Yes, and we talked about that game a little bit earlier. That was the game where there was racial abuse in that game. But it takes away from the fact that Chelsea just dominated a Manchester City team that had not been dominated all year.
And most importantly, gives Liverpool first place.
Yes, Manchester City is not in first place. It's been a long time since that has happened, as they were in first place almost the entire year last year.
Yeah, and their goal differential is still almost 10 better than Liverpool.
Mm-hmm. So Manchester City falls. Chelsea, it was a nice bounce-back game. You know, Chelsea, last week in the English Premier League, a lot of teams played twice. Chelsea loses to Wolves midweek and then beats Manchester City in the same week. Two interesting results. You would think that would be flipped, but no. They rebound well from the Wolves' defeat, and they go on and take care of Manchester City at home. So, David Luiz, a guy who many people have forgotten about, he scores late in the game to secure the win. But overall, what a performance from Chelsea, a much-needed win. It keeps them in the top 4, as Arsenal is right on their heels. But what are your thoughts on Manchester City finally losing a game, leaving one team left that's unbeaten?
I definitely think it shocked a lot of people, especially the fans of Manchester City. And I don't think anyone gave Chelsea an opportunity, a chance to beat them when the game was first starting. Mm. And then Chelsea just dominated this game. They shut them out, not only shut them out, but scored 2 goals against them. And that really shows just how maybe good Chelsea is, or maybe how off Manchester City was. I guess we'll find out how Manchester City bounces back from this loss. But still,
I mean, Manchester City's lost 2 games all season in all competitions, so I think they'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And Manchester City has Aguero's hurt right now. He's their top goal scorer. So, I'm not saying that that's an excuse or anything, but I think I think Manchester City was ripe for the picking, if I'm being honest with you. Somebody at some point was going to beat them, and Chelsea is a very quality team. So
yeah, Chelsea is no joke. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying Manchester City is just playing with so much confidence, so much talent. It's so shocking to see this happen, regardless who the team they played was.
So why don't we talk about the team who is now in first place? Do you have the score of that game? Liverpool.
The Liverpool game. Yes, I do actually. By the looks of things, I do have it. As Liverpool won their game, obviously they're still undefeated. They beat Bournemouth 4-0 in just a complete domination.
Mo Salah, who
had a hat trick.
Yes, he was the player of the year last year. He had 3 hat tricks last season. He gets his first hat trick this season, and man, some of the goals in this game that he scored were just he's proving why he should be considered one of the top 3 or top 4 players in the world, because the goals that he scored in this game, I mean, one goal, he goes 1v1, he gets hacked from behind, a guy's purposely trying to take him down, he stays on his feet, he still gets around the defender, he scores. Another one, he dribbles past the goalie 2 times and then scores.
That was just mean.
Yeah, he's just incredible. He's super quick.
Well, we
super
can't
fast.
forget about the other goal that happened, and it wasn't a Liverpool player, it was an own goal.
Yeah, it was an own goal. It was unfortunate. It went off of Steve Cook's leg.
So technically, no one on Liverpool scored besides Salah.
Yep, exactly. And maybe this will be the game that gets Salah on track. He struggled a little bit. Not struggling, but for his standards, he has struggled. And we're talking about incredible standards. He set the English Premier League record for goals in a season last year. I don't know if he'll reach that again, but setting the standard that high leads to huge expectations.
When you break a record like that, you don't expect to break it right away. Like that, it's one of those, you had such a great season, it's almost impossible to duplicate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look around the rest of the English Premier League. You have other scores for me?
Yeah, I do have other scores for you, actually, if I could just pull them up right here. Yes, we also had West Ham face Palace, and West Ham won this one 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
We also had Manchester United play Fulham, and they kind of made a statement winning 4-1, but Fulham's on the bottom of the pile.
So I'll stop you right there. West Ham over Crystal Palace. I think this game had the most goals for
5.
the weekend. Yeah.
Well, actually, Manchester United and Fulham also had 5, but 4 went to Manchester United.
This game was fun. There's some good goals in this game. Snodgrass had a really nice curling left-footed shot that hit the back of the net. Javier Chicharito Hernandez scored again. He's on fire for West Ham United right now. But
literally, he's on fire. Someone put him out for the love of God.
For this game, the best goal scored though was Felipe Anderson. He had a insanely smooth, curling, right-footed shot from outside of the box. When he hit it, it looked like it had no chance, and that thing must have curved 6 feet at least, and it goes in the back of the net. He's known for this little shot. It's a tremendous skill that he possesses, and he put it on display once again. But Crystal Palace, they did not go down easy. They get a goal in the 76th minute to make things interesting. But, man, West Ham, they were so bad to start the season. They've been playing a lot better, so I think we might see that continue going forward. And you talked about Manchester United, and this was Manchester United's most dominant offensive performance of the season so far. Now, they did play a team in Fulham who gives up a ton of goals. I mean, if we're being honest, a lot of people saw this result coming, but it was nice to see Manchester United, a team that has struggled to score, get 4 goals. And we saw 4 different players score, so maybe that adds to their confidence.
Usually when you see that many goals, it's a couple by one player. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to see when everyone contributes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, so maybe that changes things for Manchester United. They face Liverpool this weekend. That's a massive game. That's the game of the week. I think Liverpool could be ripe for the taking, too. I wouldn't be shocked if Liverpool and Manchester City lost in back-to-back weeks, and then Manchester City goes back to atop the table. We will see. However, other scores for me?
Oh, yeah, I have other scores. Let me just get them right here. We also have Southampton getting shut out by Cardiff 1-0, and Burnley beating Brighton 1-0, and Arsenal beating Huddersfield 1-0.
Yeah, so Cardiff City gets a goal. Callum Patterson with a goal and an interesting celebration if you get a chance to see his dance.
Is that considered a dance?
To him, it's not winning too many.
It's like your drunk uncle dancing at your wedding. You're like, oh God, what's he doing?
It's the kind of dance that, like, yes, if you're at a party and everybody's been drinking, and it's like, all right, so now it's your turn to dance, and you're like, okay, so I'm kind of gonna do this little shimmy thing and hope that it works well for me. But yeah, I mean, Callum Patterson. He's not known for being the smoothest in scoring goals or the smoothest dancer.
Yeah, that's basically your drunk uncle at your wedding dancing.
Yeah, so the one thing about him, though, is
I think he was just so shocked he scored. He's like, I gotta do something. He like juked out the goalie. He was like, I gotta do something. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna move my arms like this.
Words that describe Callum Patterson playing forward will never be agile, smooth, flair. It's always industrial, strong, rigid, kind of like his dance moves. So Cardiff gets another win, though. I predicted them to finish at the bottom of the table. Right now, I think they're about 14th or 15th, which is nice. But
hey, that's not the bottom.
Tottenham Hotspur 2-0 over Leicester. They get back on track after they had been defeated by Arsenal prior. One game that I like to point out, though, is Wolves. Wolves have now won back-to-back games. They played on Sunday. They were the only game on Sunday, so they were
Sunday night football.
They were Sunday afternoon. Mm-hmm.
And they got that goal in the night. Sorry to interrupt, but I just said they got that goal. That game had a goal 94th minute.
Yes.
So that was and
Matt Doherty got the goal at the death. Last
Ooh,
play
I like
of the game.
that phrase, at the death.
That's what they call it.
I like that.
It's at the death.
I mean, I actually never heard that before.
It was 94 minutes of stoppage time, or 4 minutes stoppage time. He scored in the 94th minute. It was the last run of the game and a counterattack. Diogo Jota.
There was a red card, too, in this game.
Yes, by American player DeAndre Yedlin.
Way to go. Way to make us look bad.
Matt Doherty. So Diogo Jota gets the ball. He dribbles a couple defenders. Goalie makes a great save. He pushes the ball wide, but it goes in the air, and Matt Doherty, with his hustle on the far post, heads the ball in. He celebrates in the corner. Wolves fans go nuts, and they defeat Newcastle. So a massive, massive win for the Wolves, as now there is a separation in the table. When you look at the table now, there's a gap between 13 and 14, a 7-point gap between Brighton at 13 and Cardiff at 14. That's massive. That's where you can kind of see where the separation is at this point in the English Premier League. So,
Yeah.
anyways, this weekend I talked about it, but I'll talk about it again. The two biggest games, Liverpool, Manchester United, massive game. And also, Manchester City plays Everton. So that game can also not be overlooked, as Everton might be able to give them a game. Other than that, I don't really see any other big fixtures for this weekend. I guess you could say Chelsea and Brighton could be an interesting game, and it could be. We'll see how Chelsea comes after that win. If that catapults them further, or if maybe they have a big win hangover type.
I used to have a crush on a girl named Chelsea.
Really?
Yeah. Her last name was ironically Sacramento.
Are you serious?
I'm not even kidding.
No. Come on.
No, I'm dead. I'm 100% serious. Her last name was
Chelsea
Sacramento.
Sacramento.
I'm not even kidding.
Is that like Carmen Sandiego?
I will show you proof.
What's her cousin's name? Julie San Francisco?
I don't. Sure, why not?
All right.
Let's just know their family names are just last. It's just so it happened. Her last name Sacramento. She lived in Davis. Didn't actually. I think she might have actually lived in Sacramento at one point, but who knows? But yeah, big deal. It's her. I thought that was funny too.
All right, yeah.
Gorgeous girl. Anyways, what's wrong?
If you're listening out there.
I highly doubt she listens to this.
All right, so let's take a break. When we come back, we got some U.S. soccer news.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome back to the last segment of the GSMC Soccer Podcast. We have now reached the end, but we have a few more news and notes that we'd like to talk about. And let's head our focus to the U.S. men's national team. They have a new coach, Greg Berhalter. He was suspected to be the coach for months and months and months now. They made the appointment official as he is your new U.S. men's national team coach. That has been met with a response very mixed. Some people, I wouldn't even say mixed, a lot of negative comments have come about this appointment. Some people say that this was a sham in terms of their coaching search, that it was him the whole time, that they just tried to make it look like they were doing.
Sounds like a TV show.
A lot of people think that they were making it look like they were looking, but they already knew who they were going to have for a long time, but they wanted to appease everybody and say that they were doing a full-on search. Now, he comes from the Columbus Crew. He was a Columbus Crew's coach in the MLS. He is a former U.S. international player. He was a defender for the U.S. national team before. I'm not sure what to think about this. I do think it's a little frustrating, though, to hear people kind of make their judgments already. Like, I think that with any coach, you have to give him a chance, especially someone like him. He's been relatively successful in the MLS. Now, I know that's not the international level, but he has international experience. He's coached multiple clubs in multiple countries. So I think for U.S. soccer fans out there, I know that most are feeling like maybe this is underwhelming. But the fact of the matter is that in international soccer, there are not too many big names who are looking for jobs. Most of the big-name coaches around the world are looking for club appointments. And at this time of the year, most coaches are not available. We're in the middle of seasons throughout the world. There's just not a lot out there. I'm willing to see how this goes, though. Style of play, you're looking at a 4-2-3-1, pretty much with Berhalter. That's what you're going to get from him. I don't know if anything changes there. But, yeah, a couple of U.S. players that could be featured for him, some news about them. Christian Pulisic, the American, the default Captain America at this point. He is our best player at this moment in time. He will likely be moving on from Dortmund, his club in Germany, and the two places that he could possibly go to. We've heard a couple different teams show interest, but Chelsea and Bayern Munich are the two teams.
It's nice to see an American guy get looked at by one of the top teams in the world like that.
Yes,
makes us not look so American. Like the U.S. men's national team is always looked at way below everybody else. So it's nice to see a player actually on our team in our country that can compete with the best of the best.
Where do you think would be the best landing spot for him? Chelsea or Bayern Munich?
I have to say Chelsea. I think just Premier League gets more looked at nationally and all over the world. So
Bayern is viewed as a bigger club, though, one of the top 4 or 5 clubs in the world.
True, but I think there's also, of course, I am a Chelsea fan technically because we did that little game we did. But I would have to say that I would just go where the money is. I know that sounds.
Well, I mean, the money is he's going to have to accept a transfer, but the money that will be talked about in terms of how much the player is worth will be decided by the clubs. It won't be him.
True, but I think it's more the fact that maybe if he had a choice, maybe he'll go to Bayern Munich. But I don't know. But honestly, either one is not a bad choice. Either one.
I think he needs to leave.
It's a win-win.
Dortmund is a club that develops a lot of talent, but they don't usually feature 11. They like to feature all of their roster because they are a seller's club, unfortunately. They build up talent and they sell it off for higher transfer fees, and they make money that way, and then they invest in their youth, and they kind of just keep going through the cycle. For me, he needs to leave, though, because he sometimes gets put on the bench for other players who I think are not as good as him. So, anyways, 2 goalkeepers that Coach Greg Berhalter can choose from. Ethan Horvath. Ethan Horvath has been playing for Club Brugge in Belgium, having a great season. And we are going to see him now enter the Europa League, so he'll get more exposure to the international game. He's already played in multiple Champions League games. He's got a bright future. And another keeper that has a very bright future with the U.S. national team is Zach Steffen, who, ironically, was coached at Columbus by the new U.S. coach, Greg Berhalter. He is going to Manchester City. Manchester City has bought an American goalkeeper. Very unlikely, but he won't be playing for Manchester City. They will definitely loan him to another club. But
it's nice to know that an elite team like that want him, regardless.
Yes. He will go overseas, I believe, in January. So he'll go over there. My assumption is he'll get loaned out probably to a second division team in England, which would be nice. He'll get a chance to play and build up his skills.
Just watch him be the actual starting goalkeeper for Manchester City.
I'm going to say, considering that they have the most expensive goalie ever.
I was kidding. I was obviously kidding.
I'm going to say that they'll stick with Ederson. So
yeah. Anything else?
That'll do it for today. So check us out next week as we come back. We talk a little bit more soccer, world soccer. We'll wrap up Champions League as Champions League moves on to the knockout phase, obviously after the winter break. We'll talk about the transfer window. There are some players on the move. Guys like Eden Hazard are reportedly on the move in big deals. So we'll talk about that and more when we see you next week.
Have a good week, everybody.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.